ladies, hey, congratulations on your documentary, Aftershock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More importantly, hey, congratulations for being a Sundance Election. How do you ladies feel about that?
To be in Sundance?
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, the story of how we found out was actually like one of the most incredible like moments of my life. But like the way it happened was oddly divine, it felt like, because we were together in person when we found out, which in pandemic times that like we're not always together. And we were in the city at a meeting, and Tonya actually said in the beginning of the day, like, I feel like we're meant to be together today. And I don't even know if she said it or maybe I inserted this into my memory. Like, imagine if like Sundance calls us today. I don't know if like Tonya, you actually said that, but you might have. Yeah. And then long story short, we got this email from the programmer, do you guys have time today? And we're like, why, yes, we do have time. And then we got the call and we were sitting together, and it was just an amazing moment. So we're very happy.
Yeah, Sundance is a great community, and it's such an honor to be recognized and supported by them. And I'm so happy they like the film and want to show it in the festival.
Most excellent. So let's start with this. What sparked the idea or the conversation to make this documentary, Aftershock?
Well, it's interesting. I think Paula and I both came to the subject matter in very different ways. And so I think we were both out there thinking about and beginning to work on how we were going to approach this before we knew each other. We met at a conference, a women's conference, and began the conversation about doing this film on maternal mortality together. And so I think what really sparked it, certainly for me, is the fact that I really wanted to tell the story of how Black women are dying at unnecessarily high rates from childbirth complications. I wanted to understand why. I wanted to understand how we got here, and I wanted to figure out how we could make it better. That's really the crux of why I certainly wanted to make this film.
Yeah, and for me, you know, as a mom at 4, I've had my own pregnancy and birth experiences that were traumatic. And so maternal health was something that personally I was connected to. And when I started in end of 2017, early 2018, reading articles that what I experienced was in fact a part of a very large maternal health crisis that this country is in the midst of, and that Black women are profoundly affected by this crisis. And I really, once I learned that, I really wanted to help shed light on this crisis. And from the get-go, really wanted to find a partner to tell the story with. So that was always in my mind something I wanted to do. And I became a fellow at Concordia Studio, pitched the idea of the film, and started developing it really from a topic perspective. And then one of the very first development shoots that I went on is where I met Tonya, and the rest is history. We just really hit it off and decided to make a movie together, which is almost like getting married. So.
So how did this collaboration work between you two? How did you handle the production together?
Yeah, you know, Paula and I did it all together. I mean, it's really a very symbiotic kind of thing. You know, we raised the funds for the film together. And then when production happened, you know, we hired a great crew, and, you know, we went to work. And there's no real division of labor. There is only labor, and we each put in what we could and supported it. We each brought what we had. So if I had a certain strength, I would push forward in that. If Paula had a certain strength, she pushed forward in that. Like, that's really how we did this film.
Yeah, and we just constantly evaluated the story together, and from production through the edit, we would just take piece by piece, and we spent just because the pandemic hit, and that's a whole other question, how we shifted and all that. But it actually gave us a lot of time to talk and build our creative relationship and just talk through everything. So when we did have our shoots, which were such gifts in the pandemic, like we had so much prep work because we had spoken so much about what we want the story to be.
And partnership, of course, is not easy, but when you are actually in service of the film, or you are actually in service of the story, I think it becomes a little bit easier.
Most excellent. So there are hundreds or thousands of people who are victims of this, maternal health crisis. How did you narrow it down to your subjects, and how did you convince them to participate into a documentary like this, especially with such a hard issue to talk about?
Yeah. So our subject collaborators are, as you see in the film, the heart and soul of the entire film. They are the film. And it wasn't until we connected with them that this became a cinematic piece of work. Before that, it's a topic. And really, it was more of not us finding them, but them finding us, because they're the ones that put out the call. When Shamony Gibson passed, Shawnee, the heart of our film, she gathered the community. She went on social media. She put the story out there. So we saw that story. We saw that call to action, that there was going to be this celebration of Shamani's life, and connected with Shawnee. And that really started this domino effect of just meeting all of our characters and building relationships with them.
And I just add, when you say convincing them to participate in the film, I will say very humbly, I think that they knew of some of my previous work, whether it be my children's books or my other productions. And I think there was a sense of, and also the work that I've done in the community around infant and women's health and maternal health in general. I've been, since 2007, speaking around the country on these issues about women's health. It's something that's very dear to my heart and I take very seriously. It's advocacy work that I do, and I think that they were familiar with that. And so I think that there was a sense that I would be fair and careful in bringing their story to life. So I think that's helped us with their comfort level a little bit.
How did you want to navigate around some of these systemic issues, particularly with like the government or hospitals? I mean, that part of it is that a lot of them don't want to admit there is an issue.
Yeah, I think, the balance of showing what happens in the system and the journeys of our characters was something we worked very, very hard to achieve. And the two medical professionals that are in our film, Dr. Neil Shah and Helena Grant, who is a certified nurse midwife, they're really changing the system from within. So there are people like that. There are providers who are very aware of this and want to help. And the majority right now, vast majority of women birthing people are birthing in hospitals. So it's really important to highlight the work that is happening in those systems. And we feel that both Dr. Shah and Helena are examples of how systems can change from within as long as they are grounded in community.
The only thing I would add to that is that I do think all these hospitals know that there's an issue. The statistics, they're data people. You can't avoid the data. Black women are dying at higher rates than white women in this country. And the narrative has been that it's the fault of Black women, but the more we peel that back, we see that's not true. And so I think what happens often with these hospitals now, they're eager to show what they are trying to do to make it better, which isn't always helpful, but I think that was helpful to us as filmmakers as well, because the hospitals were, oh, look, we're doing great work, come on in. And so that's also how we sort of got in there. And
I know you probably addressed it in your documentary, but what are the some of the possible solutions at this point for us to take action with?
Yeah, there are so many solutions, but for us, one of the key solutions is having midwives integrated into the system. We're the only developed country that does not have midwives in our system, and our numbers show that. So whereas in other countries, you have choices of birth settings and birth providers, whether it's a midwife in a birthing center, whether it's a doctor in a hospital, whether it's a home birth, like there's a system in place to support all those options. We don't have any of them. The majority of women are birthing in hospitals. If you do have a birthing center nearby, that's great, but that's rare. Home birth is completely stigmatized, so you don't have support there. So we need an integrated birth system.
Great. Well, one last thing before I let you ladies go is, as people obviously at Sundance is going to check out your documentary, and possibly more people down the road, what is the one most important lesson that you hope that they would take away after watching your film?
You know, that's an interesting question. I don't know that I can really say that, other than to say that, this narrative that Black women are dying from childbirth complications because of their own fault is not true. And I hope that people come away from this film having, if they've read an article or two about the high rates of maternal mortality in the Black community, that they see that these are human beings, that they are people, they are part of families, they're part of community. And when that woman dies, it has an impact on her entire community that cannot be fixed. And so there are things that we can do to improve the outcomes of birth in the United States so that our families and our communities have a solid foundation.
Yeah. And I'll just add that, I hope people know that being seen and being heard and having dignified care is not a luxury. It's not something that you should hope to have, and as long as everyone walks out alive, like, you're good. Like, that is the foundation of good care. And without that, we see the outcomes that we're seeing.
Most excellent. Well, Paula, Tonya, once again, congratulations on your documentary Aftershock and being at Sundance. And thank you very much for speaking to us about your film. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.